Hello everyone, and welcome to another Sunday painting lesson. Today is what? 6th, I think, right? October 6th, Sunday. So there's going to be, next Sunday there won't be a video, it'll be on Monday. I have an art show Friday, Saturday, Sunday this week coming up. And then I don't have one the following Sunday, it'll be on time. And then the weekend after that I have another art show. I've got 5 in between now and December 1st. So, this is another 14 by 18. Let's get started. So, we'll take we've been using a 1.5 inch brush. I got a clean 2 inch. Same thing, doesn't matter. So, I'm going to have a little bit lower horizon line. And I've got all my stuff here. There we go. Like I had said before, the last couple I did with these 14 by 18s, this is the Premier Blick canvas, which some people love. I can't stand it. It's a professional canvas, but it's just way, way, way too absorbent for my taste. So, what are we going to do today? Well, I don't know. So, I got a little bit of burnt umber, Viridian, and Alizarin Crimson. Let's just make little peeks back here. Something like this. Okay. Put a little bit more in there. Usually I don't put the umber in with it, but I figure what the hell. So I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do, but I'm pretty sure this is going to be something bigger, not as big. I'm not 100% sure what's going on. Possibly a waterfall somewhere around here. Let's see. River's edge type of thing. Still not sure here. I'm thinking this might be a background mountain, so we'll make that real faint. A little small sky this time around, and then maybe a bigger mountain come. Yeah, why don't we do that? Why don't we do that? Bigger mountain coming through. We'll go like this. Go right over it. One of the things that I enjoy the most out of oil painting, creating in particular, is just figuring out what I'm doing as I go. I don't know. I know I've said this before and you're probably tired of hearing me saying it. I just love that creation type of thing. Damn, I go through a lot of medium with this canvas, more so than I'm going to do this. I want to have a little bit of that showing in the back, so I'm not going to cover it all. There we go. I think I'm going to raise it a little higher. Right now, I'm in my what the hell am I doing stages, okay? Which I'm not exactly sure. So let's just make this back one a little bigger, just so we can see it. Actually, I'm just going to have to go right up off the canvas. I'll have it here. There we go. Okay. Now let's just refine our main mountain. There we go. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to go just a little bit more Viridian. something like this. Again, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing at the moment. And I'm sure it shows real well that I have no idea what I'm doing. There we go. Let me step back and see what that looks like. I'm not sure what that looks like. Okay, let's go with this. First thing I want to do, put in the sky. I want to get a little bit of opaque paint in here. See where the hell I'm at. A little bit of French ultramarine and cerulean blue. Wipe it off the brush so it's not clean brush, but it's, you know, got the heavy stuff off. Then just hit with titanium white. Get the opaque in there. And I want to blend it into that back mountain range. Because I want it to look like it's seamless. Ooh, that's a pretty good size brush bristle. Let's see here. There we go. Okay, that'll work. Okay, that'll work real well. Okay, so feel myself struggling on this one a bit. Not sure what the hell I'm doing. Which, if you've been following my videos, that's a common theme with my art. Not sure what the hell I'm doing as I'm doing it. Just gonna put a little bit of highlight. I don't want it, I'm gonna rub that out a little bit too, because I don't want it that profound. But I do want to be able to distinguish between the sky and that background mountain. There's just straight titanium white, but as you can see, I'm blending it into the background color. And then when I highlight the main mountain, that's going to be much thicker paint, so it'll stand up real well. Okay, that actually looks good. I'm not even going to put clouds in here because that'd be too much over there. So that works out well. Kind of step back here, see how that shows up. It shows up pretty good. Okay, I think what I'm going to do, I'm not sure. For right now, I'm going to take some burnt umber and white. I'm going to give me some highlights here. What I'm doing right now is I'm trying to establish what the hell it is I'm looking at. Okay, I've got some nice shapes in here, and I've got some nice things, but I'm not sure how they work together. And that's what I'm doing right now. Trying to see how they kind of interact with each other, if that makes any sense. So I want to get the thick paint on, because that'll give me an idea of what I'm doing. Okay. Now I'm going to go with French ultramarine, titanium white, and a little bit of cerulean. I want to get some shadows in here. Just using a, what is this? I think it's a number 6 filbert. Not worried about how this is because I'm going to have a bunch of trees, pine trees, in front of it. now I just want to get this grayish tint out of here. And the other thing is too, because I got dark in the background and then I'm putting blue in here, when I hit this thing with green, I mean with a yellow, it's gonna make a real nice green anyway. So that's part of the method to the madness, is I'm gonna have a natural green just go right with it. And then as usual, you gotta reestablish your highlights. That's not a big deal. Okay, hope everybody had a great weekend. I've been getting ready for all these shows, so I've been between that and my job, I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off, but I didn't want to miss a video. I've been every Sunday like clockwork, and I don't want to mess that up if I don't have to, so that's why I'm doing this video instead of preparing for my show. I just want to make sure you guys expect a video on Sundays. I want to make sure you get one. Okay, let me step back here. Okay, that's actually looking pretty good. So the next thing I'm going to do, I normally don't, lately anyway, I'm going to take the little palette knife, not the big one, the little one. I'm going to do a little bit of texture. And what I'm doing, I'm deliberately going over my shadows, so it looks a little more realistic. There we go. I've never been a master at making mountains with that realistic everything on it. You know, all the different values, all the different, I've never had a desire to do that. I don't like my mountains looking regimented. I'd rather have the little bit of craziness with the palette knife, make them look original, than, I don't know. I always consider my art semi-realist. You know what I'm painting, but it's not exact anything. And that's kind of how I always envision my work. I don't want to be exact anything. I just want it to look free and spontaneous and fun. Because that's what I'm trying to teach to people. You know, there's so many people that labor with painting. And when you labor, it just doesn't come out. Okay, so that looks good. So the next thing I'm going to do, get rid of the palette knife, go back to my filbert, and go back to my titanium white and French ultramarine. I'm just going to define some areas a little bit more. That's all I'm doing. Where it's a little too ragged, I'm putting in that highlight. I mean, shadow. I want to show a little bit more of the little crevices, cracks, everything going all over the place. This, like a lot of things, is by your own sight. Okay, what do you think looks good? There is no method, there is no rule of thumb. It's how you see it. Is it appealing to you? If it's appealing to you, go with it. If it's not appealing to you, figure out what went wrong and then fix it. Oil paint gives you the luxury of having time to fix things. There we go. And this I'm doing just to smooth it out a little bit. And I'm barely touching it. And then here, like I said, that's going to be trees, so it doesn't matter. Okay, let me step back and see what it. See, now that looks a lot better. That looks a lot better. Okay. So I don't know if I'm going to need that filbert for anything else, so I'm going to leave it alone for right now. Okay, I still am not sure what this is going to be. I'm still thinking about having this and below it as water, and this a little bit of a pasture and some more mountains. Excuse me, which I think is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to put in my water. I'm going a little heavier on my blue than I normally do. I want to make a statement. I know it's not realistic. Like I said, I'm a semi-realistic landscape oil painter anyway. So I like a lot of blue in my water. And this, okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit this with some of my Cadmium Yellow Light Hue. And then I'm going to go down here a little bit. I'm not going to have a waterfall. The river just being fed from somewhere out there, out to the east. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this as a pasture, and then I'm going to put some more mountains over it. Have like another range that's going to go down a little bit. And then that will kind of give me what I'm looking for, I think. Especially since I have no idea what the hell I'm looking for. There we go. I want to go right into there. Okay, so I like that. Now, I gotta get this yellow off my brush, but I'm not gonna clean it, not with my solvent yet. I'm just gonna wipe it, get the bulk off. I'm not a big believer, you probably know this by now, of washing my brush every time I do something. If I was a portrait artist, that'd be a different story, but I'm not. I'm a landscape artist. I don't use a lot of colors anyways, so the chances are pretty good whatever's on my brush, I'm gonna be using all over the place. Excuse me. So, what I got to do now is I got to figure out where my next mountain range is going to be. Okay? And then I got to make that more pronounced than this. So, we're basically going to have 3 levels of mountains range-wise. Okay? This is number 2. The far one is number 3. And then the one I'm about to put on is number 2. I'm not 100% thrilled with this. So, I'm going to make that next range kind of go up like this. So I'm going to take out a decent amount of this, but I'm going to leave a little bit of it so you can see the depth. This I like a lot. So this one I'm going to leave. So I'm going to go into Payne's Gray, Burnt Umber, and just a hair of Alizarin Crimson. I got to figure it out. I'm just going to do this. Okay, now that I know where that's going, take my palette knife, I'm going to scrape. There we go. That way I'm not fighting it all the time, trying to make it darker when I got white, trying to make it lighter. Okay, so there we go. Now remember, I want to keep the background. I want to keep those little hills in the back, and I want to keep this. So I've got to be aware of where my colors are. And it's going right into my water, which I don't give a shit. I can fix that later. And then I'm just gonna make this up to here. There we go. Got my shape in, so now just gonna make it darker. And I'm also gonna put it in the right direction. I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. There we go. Like this. So, the right direction. I'm gonna put the highlight to stay consistent on the left. So I'm going to make this go down to the right. Smooth it out. There we go. Now, wipe this brush off. Oh wow. That has a pretty cool look to it. Folks, I'm telling you, I have no freaking idea what this, when I started today, like normal. You know, one of the things I'm trying to do, and it's going to sound cheesy and I apologize, but one of the things I want to do is kind of have my mind clear when I'm doing videos for you guys, because I do want you to get in the habit of just creating, okay? Now, do I go with sketches from stuff? Of course, 100%. But I don't want you or myself or anybody to lose that creative paint from the hip type of art, okay? I want everybody to understand you can put a bunch of colors and shapes on the canvas, look for something interesting, refine it, and boom, a beautiful work of art that, and for a scene that doesn't exist. I have no idea if this is real, and I could care less. I don't know if this is a scene somewhere, if this is similar to something, I don't know. And it doesn't matter to me. All I know is it's been fun to do so far. So now what I'm going to take my Cadmium Yellow Light Hue, I love that. I'm going to put in a little bit of land here. And another hair comes off. There we go. There we go. I want some land. Okay. There are times I like the cliffs and the mountains and all that other stuff to go straight into the water. And there are times like now I don't. Now I'm going to hit this with blue. Blue. Dark blue. See that? And now I'm going to refine where my water is. When in doubt, with oil paint, acrylics also, if it's an opaque medium, when in doubt, doesn't matter. Use thicker paint and go right over it. Wipe off underneath, go right over it. However you want to do it, doesn't matter. It does not matter. There we go. Okay, so we've got that done. The far bank is relatively straight, which you know I like. I'm going to put in some land. So we've got all of the canvas covered. And then we'll start highlighting and putting in ripples and all kinds of cool stuff. Yeah, this one's went from, oh God, what is this going to look like, to, ooh, I'm liking what this looks like. I was a little bummed out for a while, and then I'm like, okay, this is starting to come together. Starting to come together, Pepper. What show was that from? What movie was that from? If you know, leave it in the comments below. I love the movie too. It's an older movie. Not a vintage movie, you know, like black and white, but it's been around for a while. Okay. See, one of the things too is that I may buy a 16 by 20 ampersand gesture board, which I do my studio work on. And I may do one of those with you guys for a video, just to show you how the paint just glides right on, as opposed to how you see me struggling here or using more medium and stuff. There's some paintings I don't use any medium on it. It's not silky smooth, but it's much smoother, and it doesn't absorb because it's on wood, and the paint just glides easy. And then there's also, and I'll show you real quick, this is another one of my favorite surfaces to paint on, and this is an oil primed. OP is for oil primed, and this is linen. You can see the linen down there. Okay, this has a similar look to it as the hardwood, because when it's oil primed, it has a barrier, and it doesn't allow the oil paint to soak into the fibers like a gesso acrylic primed would. Okay, excuse me. So if you're painting thin, it really makes a difference. If you're painting thicker, it makes some difference. But the oil primed, I find this colors just stand out just pretty close to what the wood looks like. And that's why those two are my favorite. I'm leaning a little more towards the wood, but both of them I like a lot. Okay, so what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna blend, and you've seen me do this before, the water and the land together. Kind of similar how I did the sky with that far mountain range. Okay? And I do this for a lot of reasons. One, because I can. I'm the artist, I can do whatever the hell I want. My canvas, my rules. Which, as you can tell, I don't play by much as far as rules. But the biggest reason I do that for is I want a smooth transition. As I put, you know, the white in the water to kind of show you the water lines and stuff, and then I add yellow and greens and whatever to the ground, it just has this nice smooth transition, like here. You know, one of the things about a distant mountain, you know, it's way back there that you can barely see, you know, you can barely see the highlights and stuff, is they like blend seamlessly together. You don't have a hard edge. Here you have a hard edge, and you need it, okay? You must have a hard edge in this particular instance so it looks correct. You need a hard edge for the second range to the far one so it's separate. But one of the things that makes the distant mountain look even more distant is when you have that soft, subtle edge right into the sky to where you don't know where one starts and the other one begins. And that, my friends, is a lesson in perspective. Hard edges are great when you need them. Soft edges are great when you need them. And what I'm doing now is just blending away and just making sure I got that background mountain faint and into that sky. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, you can barely see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of Viridian. Just going to put in just a little bit of color. And not using a lot of color here, just a little bit. And what this is doing is it's just making sure we still see it. I don't want it to be so faint where you don't see it. There we go. Got to be able to see it. Here. And the next thing I'm going to do is wipe off my brush and not clean it. And I'll go over the same thing with a little bit, and I'm going to use this way to hold it, okay, overhand, because it'll give me a lighter grip. Now I'm just gonna do this. And that's what Payne's gray, and that's just to give me my feint. And then I'm gonna blend this with this brush once I get this on. So it's visible, but it's not in your face. It's hard to make out. So, but then remember, my main colors in the beginning when I'm sketching out are Viridian and Payne's gray. I'm doing the same thing, I'm just not putting them on the brush together. Okay, so now we wipe off our brush. Actually, I'm going to use something else. I normally don't do this for that, but I'm going to use a hake brush. It's really super soft bristles. Hake brushes are used a lot in watercolors. And all this is going to do is just blend together like I want. There we go. Make it nice and smooth. And I'm doing this right on the edge where the sky and that meet. So it's just one color blends into the other. There we go. Perfect. I can deal with that. Now, I'm probably not going to use that brush for another month. So that one I will clean out. And put it back over there. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do, take a little filbert. I'll put in a few little highlights here. Well, very little. And I've got to make this value of white much fainter than that one. There we go. And that's one of the things you got to really get used to is when you're doing background stuff like this, even though I'm using the same color as that middle mountain range, you got to make sure about the value. And basically that's just the lightness and darkness. So this value has to be much lighter for it to work than the one next to it. And then up here, that to go down. Okay, so it looks on the camera. Now I'm happy. Sometimes you got to fiddle with it, fiddle with it, whichever word you want to use. I don't enjoy fidgeting with stuff. Every once in a while you have to get it the way you want it. Okay, so I'm gonna have a ton of trees over here, so I'm just gonna highlight the peaks. I'm not gonna do much else with it. And the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this brush and I'm gonna smooth those out. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to use the knife. And what I want to do is I don't want it to be that rough. I don't want the texture to be the same for both ranges. Okay, so that's going to be like that. And I'm actually going to take a little bit of paint off with a small knife. Just a little bit off. Those highlights are a little too pronounced, considering what I'm going to do here. There we go. Okay. See, this is the only drawback to painting the way I do a lot of these, where you don't know as you go. I didn't know this wasn't going to be my front range when I put in the highlights. Later I did, so I had to alter it. So now, blue again. Okay, so this is looking the part. It's looking the way I want it to. Okay, there we go. Now let's get these front range edges cleaned up a bit. There we go. Next thing I want to do, blend this in the back. There we go. Okay. Excuse me. Now we will put the highlights. We're not going to have as many highlights as we had on the other one, so. There we go. I'm trying to keep my shoulder out of the way, but I don't think it's working. Go. Now I'll use the big brush because it's here. So, there we go. I like that a lot. Now, the only thing I got to do, I went too blue on my middle range. So I got to Payne's gray the hell out of it and get that blue out. It's way too bright. It's another lesson in perspective. The further away colors are, the more dull they are, not vibrant. Vibrancy comes as you move forward in the painting. this one especially here. Dull that down. There we go. There we go. Okay, I can deal with that. That looks much nicer. Okay, so what I'm going to do before I hit the water, I'm going to take my 2-inch brush and I'm going to start on doing all my pines. I want to get those established and see where I'm going to go. I'm not sure how high up, how low, whatever. Before I do that, I definitely need a little bit more Payne's Gray. I am out. And you know as well as I do, when I do my trees, I like the mixture of Payne's Gray and Viridian. Sometimes a touch of Alizarin Crimson, but most of the time it's Viridian and Payne's Gray. I love those two colors together, and then when I hit it with my Cadmium Yellow Light Hue, it really pops out. Looks really good. Okay, so let's do it. Payne's Gray, Viridian, and let's just put it right here. Let's start with this. Always got to get that first one in. Remember, this is going to be thick paint now. Okay. A little bit of alizarin in there. Basically what I'm doing is I want to see where I'm going to keep, I want to see what part of the hills, the mountains, I'm going to keep and what parts I'm going to cover. And that's kind of just as I go. Put that one right off the top. I like some of this stuff here. I'm going right here. And this kind of is going to tie it all together. But I don't want to get rid of a lot of these highlights and stuff. I want to keep some of them. I want to keep some of them to where I want you to be able to see it, okay? But I don't want you to see everything. If that makes any sense. I know I'm talking in circles, and I do that sometimes. But I'll show you in a minute, okay? And there is a method to my madness. Yeah, I'm putting the grass in, and then I'm going to hit it with the Cadmium light, yellow light, to brighten it up a bit when I do the trees. Okay, so what was I talking about before? Let me get a long brush out here. I can point it out. Okay, so one of the things that we've been laboring on is our 3 range of mountains, okay? Furthest, middle, foreground. So when you put that much effort into it, you want it to show up a little bit, but you know you can't show up everything. You can't see it all. There's only so much room. So I've got some small trees here, but this, I really like this ledge of highlight. Okay, I love this one here too. These peaks are kind of cool. I like the background there, and I like those. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that go over everything. Then I've got, like 4 or 5 that go up to, and then I've got a bunch in the bottom. Different levels of trees. But I can still see the furthest range, the mid-range, and the big range, and some of the highlights. Not all, but some. Like this one is pretty much all the way done. That one's all the way done. Some of these are all the way, but you see enough of it where you know light is coming from the upper left, shining this way, and there you go. So when you take all your time, well, not all your time, but when you take a lot of time into perfecting each range, make sure that as you're putting layers going towards the front, you leave some of that visible, okay? You want to make sure you have it to where, okay, I can see this now. And that is a lesson in aerial perspective, atmospheric perspective, however you want to call it. Okay, so I'm going to take my 2-inch brush that I've been using for the bulk of the work. Wipe it off, and I go into straight Cad Yellow Light Hue. I'm going to put this on thick, but you remember, we're going to tap it in. We're going to blend it in, so it's going to be a pretty green. It's not going to be this, yellow color, which there's nothing wrong with it, but I like the green. And I like thick paint. You know this now if you've been watching my videos. Thick paint, my wife's not too crazy about. I love it. That's what oils were meant to be. Laid on thick, juicy color. Now, I will say it is very difficult to control when you're new. Okay, so when you start using thick paint, understand in the beginning it's going to look like, I don't want to say, it's just going to look messy. It's not going to look as refined as it will later. And that's just because you got to get used to using it. Thick paint can be very intimidating, but in my opinion, oil paintings that have the thicker paint look the best. They just, I don't know, there's something about it that is just beautiful, and I love it. Okay, now I'm tapping all the little trees and everything else. Okay, so we got a lot of forest here. I don't want just a couple little trees, I want a forest. Some are going to be lighter than others, some are going to be darker than others. It's the whole idea. Okay, so now I'm going to wipe off my brush. Get all that excess yellow out of it. All the thick yellow out. And I'm going to take the dirty brush that's got a little of everything. And now I'm going to tap on everything. And what I'm doing is I'm blending the yellow into my dark base color for these trees. And that's where I get my beautiful green. And doing it this way, you get a nice texture. See the way it's working? You want to tap, you don't want to drag. Just make sure you tap it up and down, and you don't tap down and drag over. You don't want to do that. You're not interested in a brush stroke for this particular application. This is just tapping it in. And what it's going to do is it's going to give you the foliage look, and it's going to blend the paint. Two things that you want, definitely. There you go. Let's see how it looks on the camera. Okay, so let's have another lesson in perspective. So, this one is actually value. Really bright. Kind of like a mid-tone. much darker, a little medium, a little lighter. You've got over here real dark. So you've got at least 4 values, okay, using the identical colors. The difference is how much of those colors you put on. So you got the same mixture, okay? Your base is Viridian and Payne's Gray, a little bit of Alizarin Crimson, but Payne's Gray and Viridian are the bulk. A little bit of the Alizarin Crimson is gonna kind of tap down the greenish of the Viridian. So that was your base. Then you put straight Cad Yellow Light Hue on thickly, not everywhere, but on your main stuff. Once you were done with that, you wiped your brush and then you tapped with the dry brush to blend the yellow into that base color. And then by how hard you tapped it or light determines how much it blended and how much of the yellow stayed out. So that is how you get 4 different values of green with the same identical mixture. And that is not just for trees, it's for water, grass, mountains, any damn thing you want. But that is the key. You don't use more colors, you just use more technique. And the technique in painting, there's a lot of technique and a lot of stuff in painting that just comes down to the pressure. How light and or heavy your pressure is with the brush, with the knife, with your fingers, however you want to paint. So the pressure is very important on everything. Okay, so we're gonna go back into the Cad Yellow Light. Now this, I want lighter, okay, like it is. And the reason is because it's in front of the forest, so I want it to stand out. And I'm also using thick paint on this, as you can tell. There you go. Let's back up. See how much that stands out now? There's no blending. There's no eyes. Your eyes are not blending it together. Like here and here to the sides, your eyes are blending it together because you painted it that way intentionally. But you wanted to make sure that this land here in the midground is separate from here. Again, that midground land, that base color was identical to what you had for your trees. Your highlight is identical to what you had for the trees. The difference is we're not blending this. We're leaving it thick and we're leaving it out. So now you have a distinct land and distinct trees. Your horizontals, your verticals, but you see that hard edge, let's say, and that keeps them separate. Now that we have that land done, now we can go into the water. So remember, I don't like putting highlights on the water before you do that land because sometimes it gets into it. Now, do I do it sometimes? Of course. I've been painting long enough where I can fix most of the mistakes and have it still look good. And when you're just starting out, you know, you take your time and you do the water and you got it looking perfect just the way you want it. Then all of a sudden you do this land and then you have yellow inside of it and you're like, oh no, what do I do? I've done that a million times, so it doesn't matter. But somebody that's starting out, it can be stressful. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just going like this. I'm using the side of my brush. Some areas are going to be thicker than others, but I want it to be breaking. There we go. There we go. I want it to break. There we go. Now I'm going to dry this, well, not dry it off, but take all the bulky paint out. Okay. So that way, I didn't wash the brush, but I got, all the big stuff out. Now, you remember seeing me do this before. Granted, it's when I tapped in with the fan brush, the water, or the clouds, but we're still going to go very gently and make sure we're kind of straight on everything. Like this isn't that straight. There we go. There we go. very lightly. Then you come back and you say, hey, that looks kind of cool. Now the next thing we're going to do, tap in this foreground. I'm going to get the edge first. Once I establish my edge, this doesn't matter. But the edge is going to determine exactly where the water is. And then from there, I'll put in the foliage that's up on the riverbank. A lot of times you've seen me do it ahead of time. And, you know, put in all that stuff. For some reason today, I just decided to do this first. The order you do that really is irrelevant. I think today I'm going to give my wife a break. She doesn't like when I do grass and stuff with a palette knife. So I'm going to make this one all brush and no palette knife. So it's not going to be as crazy as it used to be. I do enjoy the palette knife texture, but my poor wife. I love her dearly, but she's just not as adventurous with the paintings. But I am still going to make this thick. Okay. Now, what we're going to do, I still got a decent amount of Viridian and Payne's gray on my palette. And if I don't, it doesn't matter. I'll squirt some more out. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take and I'm just going to lift up. I want that dark to go with that. But I'm also taking that thick paint, lifting that up too. Just touch it and lift it up. See how dark that's getting? That's what I want. And I'm going to do that here too. There we go. Now I'll take some Alizarin Crimson. I'll put that in here too. Always want to have a little bit of variety, especially when you're talking about out in the forest and wilderness. Hell, even the Morton Arboretum that we live close to and we're members of, you look at those pastures, and they got all kinds of colors, especially this time of the year. You know, everything's starting to change a little bit color-wise. And again, this now is to your liking. This is to your liking. I'm going to put a little bit of red in the back here, a little higher. Okay. Now I'm going to wipe that off. I'm going to get my trusty foliage brush, which is that real cheap, what is that, $1.99 a Hobby Lobby brush that I love for flowers and stuff. And I'll put flowers everywhere. And remember, like I always say, wherever you put one thing, put it somewhere else in the painting. Gives it that nice little cohesive color harmony type of thing. Okay, now I gotta get another paper towel because I've used everything I put out. I really got messy today, but it's painting. It's painting. Put a little bit of bluebells in there. It's gonna be darker though. There we go. That's the darkness I wanted. There we go. Ooh, one more place. And I believe we have a completed painting. So I hope everybody is happy with this painting and you give it a try. It's very simplistic. I made this one a little harder than I needed to. So hope everybody has a great rest of your weekend and a great work week, and I will see you next time.